Hi, everybody. My name is Brendan Ecker. Welcome to Ecker Geopolitics. It's July 14th, 2026, and today we have a lot of news. We have a lot of news when it comes to the NDAA being temporarily shut down. There's still a lot of things to do with the SAVE Act in there, so it's not completely dead. The HR 8800, which will fuse the United States military with the Israeli military, that's still ongoing, but at the current time, that has not been placed into the SAVE Act. At the same time, we also have an ICE agent who recently had to shoot another assailant for trying to run them over with their vehicle. And so, again, this is, according to the subject control continuum in law enforcement, completely legal. And at the end of the day, we had a Marine who also said so as well. We also have markets that I'm going to cover, and we're going to cover the Iran war, everything that's happening with that, the tit-for-tat strikes that came place overnight last night. It was huge. Just America... Within 5 hours, we had a 5-hour strike campaign against the Iranians. Then we had the Iranians retaliating shortly after, hitting Bahrain and the Fifth Fleet at the U.S. bases there. And then we're also going to cover the crypto markets. We're going to be covering the AI news, Sam Altman being sued by Tim Cook, CEO of Apple. So a lot of information today, a lot of news, a lot of updates on what's really going on in the algorithm. So be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to support the information. What do you think about everything going on today? I think it's going to be quite an interesting show. I think we're living in an interesting time where we need to pay attention to these things. That's why I do this show. I think it's rather important to focus on a lot of these issues because there's never been a more important time to focus on history and what's really happening in our country. And there is a lot happening in our country. So again, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Also, if you need to work with me in real estate, I am a real estate agent. And I'm a real estate agent in Michigan. I'd love to represent you, help you find your next property, or help you sell your property, whatever needs to happen. I have experience doing that, and I work with eXp Realty, so we're able to do that as well. If you want to build your own business, then work with Gold Shark Media AI, goldsharkmedia.com. You can run your entire business from one place. If you're an HVAC, whether you're an attorney, whether you are any kind of small business owner, B2B, we run our business right from Gold Shark Media AI, goldsharkmedia.com. So again, you want to support the show, again, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. And so let's get right into the information. Let's talk about some of the most breaking news hitting the algorithm today. I wanted to start with this clip on Trump. Okay, so again, very interesting times we are living in. So when I see everything going on, this comes from Nick Sortor, breaking President Trump says the U.S. will start hitting bridges and power plants in Iran. Next week, it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all of their power plants, says Donald Trump. We will knock out all of their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Do you anticipate that the strikes we're seeing this week against Iran will expand? Are you considering hitting energy targets or other locations inside of Iran?
I'll save the energy targets for last, but ultimately we'll hit energy targets, yeah. But we're going to hit them very hard tonight. We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Do you believe the Iranians are serious about making a deal?
I think they have no choice.
Why haven't they yet?
I think if I didn't do the way I'm doing, they would never make a deal. They would have never made a deal with Obama. That deal was the worst deal. What they did sign was a worthless piece of paper. What they signed with Obama was a worthless piece of paper that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And what I have is a wall. There will be no nuclear weapon. I'll never sign. And when you listed the three things, by far the most important is they will not have a nuclear weapon.
So again, the Iran nuclear deal is something Trump withdrew from in 2017. And if you don't remember that, that was one of the biggest moments of this entire presidency with Trump and everything that we're seeing today. It's important to realize that, again, last night, overnight, again, a 5-hour strike campaign on Bandar Abbas, Qasem Island, Sarik, same locations essentially in the Strait of Hormuz, and basically targeting energy plants, basically targeting a lot of stockpile of weapons for the Iranians. And then the Iranians, shortly after, like almost immediately, they struck back with, again, strikes on Bahrain and the Fifth Fleet. And again, there's limited casualties. We don't really know about how many casualties exactly, but we know that there's limited casualties. A lot of the missiles and precision strikes were intercepted. We know that. So big stories, ultimately big information. Again, we have the U.S.-Iran war latest. U.S. blockade on Iranian ports restarts as Trump angles for control over the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. restarted a blockade on Iranian ports Tuesday afternoon and launched a few additional strikes on Iran, marking the fourth consecutive night of attacks. President Trump said he decided to replace a planned 20% fee on the cargo through the Strait of Hormuz with trade and investment deals from Gulf states after shipping industry experts balked at the fee. Iran has not ruled out its charging for its own tolls for the use of the Strait of Hormuz and has threatened ships that sail through the waterway without permission. The price of crude oil has shot up over the last 2 days as the U.S.-Iran fighting resumes, including Iranian attacks on cargo ships. And so, again, those cargo ships were pretty much on the Cyprus and a lot of the Galaxy vessel. That was a big story, a big hit, sank the entire ship. It was huge. At the same time, we have Trump Gulf investment deals that will replace the Hormuz fee. Iran hits tankers after the third night of U.S. attacks. U.S. military carried out a fourth night of strikes against Iran after President Trump reinstated its blockade of Iranian shipping, which went into effect at 4 p.m. in Washington, 2000 GMT. Trump said trade and investment deals with the Gulf states will replace the 20% fee for ships that pass through the Strait of Hormuz that he had proposed a day earlier. Bahrain, Jordan, and Kuwait say they intercepted Iranian attacks on Tuesday as Tehran retaliates with missiles and drones across the Gulf. The United Arab Emirates says one crew member was killed after 2 oil tankers were struck by Iranian cruise missiles. So, again, this is a big story developing. The MOU, again, we have to consider it as essentially dead, right, the way I see it. This MOU is pretty much over from what I see and everything that we're looking at because, again, Trump has already stated that we're going to attack. He's already pretty much set his plans. Unless the Iranians negotiate, Trump has already said that we're going to be bombing energy targets, so bridges, again, supply chains. We're going to be attacking a lot of Iran's different power plants. And again, I do think that Karg Island is still on the table. I think Trump wants to take that. And I think we also know that Trump said just last week, and I covered this on one of my YouTube shorts, he literally says that I don't want to deal with them anymore. I don't want to make a deal with them. I'm done talking with them, and it's pointless. So basically, if we're looking at that, it seems to me that this deal is pretty much over and that the war is going to continue. We're in this for a long haul. And ultimately, we can expect the oil prices to continue to go up. Okay, so again, when we look at those oil prices, right now, WTI crude is way up today, $79.90. Brent crude is at $85.45. Murban crude's at $81.51. And natural gas is at $2.91. So ultimately, these prices are going right back up because Wall Street and the insurers of these oil tankers, these LNG, these LPG tankers, chemical tankers, they all essentially know that this war is basically going to continue now. And basically on Trump's statements, it tells us that there's no reason to believe that these strikes are going to end anytime soon, right? So let's cover more of what's really going on with Iran responding after Trump announces U.S. toll in the Strait of Hormuz.
So President Trump ordering a new set of strikes on Iranian military targets for third straight night yesterday.
This as another blockade in the Strait of Hormuz is scheduled to begin this afternoon.
Aisha Hasni is live at the White House with the very latest. Aisha.
Hey, good morning. A lot of firepower, a lot of back and forth. Let's get started with what happened overnight as the president brings down his iron fist on Iran. The U.S. pounded Iran for 5 hours last night. CENTCOM says they hit military targets across 6 different locations, but did not say if they struck Pickaxe Mountain. That's something the president said was a potential target for a nice big fat shot. Also seeing reports that the IRGC carried out drone and missile strikes on U.S. military targets in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. And a Dutch shipping firm says one of its vessels was struck off the coast of Oman. All of this hours after the president said the U.S. was taking control of the strait.
Crazy.
We will end up just controlling the whole thing. And what they're doing is being very foolish, very stupid, and they've treated people horribly. They've killed 52,000 protesters so far that we can determine. It might be more than that, but 52,000 protesters have been killed, and it's really a terrible situation.
The president also announced a new 20% fee in the Strait, turning the tables on Iran. He said Iran and anyone doing business with them has to pony up.
We're putting the blockade back, and it's a blockade not for anybody but Iran. In other words, anybody doing business with Iran can't go through. Everyone else will be able to go through. So it's a blockade. It's a very strong blockade.
Trump genuinely looks tired. When I look at him, he looks like he's getting up there. We need a dark horse who's really going to get us out of this Iran war personally. And I think Trump just wants to do this for Israel, in my opinion. When I look at a lot of the analysis, he says that it's so that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. We have to remember that I think this war is essentially kind of meaningless, right? And so Trump just looks like he's really just going through the motions. And again, with everything we're seeing with ICE, basically now they're going to decrease deportations and all of that. Similar movements telling us that Trump is just almost drawing back on everything that he ran on, right? So again, not taking on Trump, but it's definitely noticeable. He's tired and he looks exhausted from this entire war.
The blockade was probably more effective even than hitting them, but I think the combination is the thing that really does it.
Iran's foreign minister posting this in response on X, writing, POTUS is absolutely right. Whoever provides secure and safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz should be compensated for this service. Iran has always been the guardian of the strait and will remain so forever. 20% is, of course, too much. We will be fair. Meanwhile, Iraq's prime minister is scheduled to meet with the president at the White House today. Iraq ships a lot.
Mind you that we, the United States, were already in control of the Strait of Hormuz, essentially. Geopolitically, we were already controlling the entire strait. And now we are right back to square one where we have to fight for this. And we are in an Iraq 2.0. And we are in an Afghanistan 2.0. A Vietnam 2.0, you could consider this. Very similar, in my opinion, when I look at really what we're going through right now.
Oil through the Strait of Hormuz. That has slowed down considerably since these strikes began, since this Strait of Hormuz exchange began. The president announced as well that he's going to be addressing the nation this Thursday, prime time at 9 o'clock. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much.
Thursday at 9 p.m. Be sure to watch Ecker Geopolitics. I will be streaming that at 9 p.m. So again, tune into the show. I'm going to cover all of it and my thoughts on it, everything he says. It's going to be mostly on election integrity, going to be on the Iran war, how we're winning the war, controlling the strait, job numbers up. Same thing you usually get out of Trump, in my opinion. That's what we're pretty much going to get. That's what I predict. But yeah, 9 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, July 16th. Be there. Ecker Geopolitics on YouTube and Rumble, and I'll be streaming that.
That's Aisha.
Thanks, Aisha.
So the Iranians are doing these back channels and trying to say that that these junior members of the IRGC are the ones that are doing the firing. And I don't think the president is taking them at the word. He's still hitting them very hard. I did find it very interesting yesterday what he told Hugh Hewitt about Pickaxe Mountain, that we're going to be taking it very soon. I think we're...
So first it's Karg Island, then it's Pickaxe Mountain. Insane. We're just always going a level up. We're always trying to take one more different island.
This was bound to happen. The president gave peace a shot. The Iranians didn't want to take him up on that offer, and they're trying to leverage the strait, and the president is making very clear that he's going to finish the job.
Yeah, the president has said he's going to charge 20% a fee on all cargo moving through the strait. Here he is.
We've had 10 deals with these people, and so we're just going to hit them very hard. And we're gonna keep the strait, and we'll probably run it. We'll become the guardian of the strait. We guarded the strait for 50 years more, and we never got paid for it.
Keywords, we were guarding the strait for 50 years. And up until 2026, thanks to this Iran war and the Israelis really getting us into this war, fighting their war for them, now we are in a position where we again are not controlling the strait, and we have to now secure it when we already were controlling it. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
They made all the money, and the United States was just, not. They wouldn't. It's amazing. It's we never made. We guarded it for nothing, and now we're going to guard it. And we're going to get paid for guarding it. A lot of money, but we just want to be reimbursed for doing all of this, for putting our people in danger. But we're really not putting people. We're really saving people.
So it's going to be interesting. Look, Over the weekend, Iran was getting a test to see if they were going to be serious about this memorandum of understanding, if there was going to be progress. And what did they do? They failed it by doing the very thing that we were testing them on, which is to see if they were going to fire on ships in the Strait. And they did that. Iran, make no mistake, killed their own shot at a deal. Now the president is saying, we're going back to striking you hard, as you pointed out, LJ. And also, he's talking about this taking over the Strait and even levying a fee for it. We'll see if that actually happens. It does seem to be a signature part of President Trump's playbook, which is when he needs to create space for some talks and negotiations, he does that while at the same time maintaining that he is going, you better believe what he says, which is going to hit harder and harder if you're going to fail that test and not try and
now we're going to be bombing their bridges, and we're going to be hitting energy targets like power plants. You're going to be seeing that next week, and there's supposed to be a big strike tonight.
True in good faith negotiation.
Well, the fee is just so that America is not just paying for the defense of the Strait. I mean, if people don't want to pay the fee, then they can easily just help us with the security of the Strait. We're not getting the majority of our oil, not even 10%,
Fox News,
I think, of our oil from the Strait. Travels through there. We're energy independent. If this is going to be a global market, then the globe needs to help secure the Strait. If not, then maybe they do need to pay us some money to secure the passage of their oil.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're really there protecting Europe more than we are our own interests because, geographically speaking, they're more at risk because
we're protecting Israel. Make no mistake about it. We are protecting Israel, essentially. We are the only thing standing in between Iran attacking Israel because Israel has been attacking Iran and basically forcing this Greater Israel Project, trying to get rid of their nuclear program. While Israel has 200 nuclear warheads that the United States is not allowed to know about. And they're trying to fuse with our military as we speak through H.R. 8800 and the National Defense Authorization Act, which today, again, the Senate basically shut down. They voted on it, and it was shut down temporarily. But that still basically just doesn't attach. It basically just doesn't attach it to the Save America Act. Doesn't mean that it's not going to get passed. And again, I think that this will all happen in October based on where pretty much the political schedule seems to be right now. So again, Israel is the real enemy here. Israel is who we are really helping with all of this before Europe. And at the end of the day, this isn't really benefiting the United States at all. We don't need to be in this war. We ought to be focusing on Venezuela. We ought to be focusing on Cuba. And we really need to focus on our own borders and our own country, which is being infiltrated by these same Muslims of whom we are at war against. These people are filling up our country by illegal immigration. And again, today, Trump's administration literally said, we no longer are going to deploy ICE agents to pull over and make traffic stops and to arrest illegal immigrants. We're going to slow down on all of that because, again, another person was shot today for trying to ram an ICE agent. So as Trump is saying how we're protecting, as we're protecting America by doing this, we are forcing all of this migration coming over to America. And these people are coming over here with their religion, Muslims typically, and a lot of Jews also. Again, they are migrating here, and they're bringing their customs and their way of life to our country. And so, again, we were being forced to just tolerate and accept all of this.
Closer, or Israel,
and pay for it.
Some of these other countries are more at risk than we are. But we're paying...
Israel's not more at risk than we are.
The majority of this. And Donald Trump, this is all on his shoulders.
That's true.
So he's saying, look, if y'all are going to charge... We're going to charge. You're not charging. We're going to be the ones in control of this strait. If you want to take control, we wanted it to be international waters, but if not, I'm not afraid to be able to take charge. We have more than 50,000 U.S. service members currently deployed all across the Middle East. And these
50,000 U.S. troops deployed over the Middle East. This is a ramping up war. This isn't stopping anytime soon. 50,000 military foot soldiers on the ground in the Middle East.
American forces, they are vigilant, they are ready, and they are lethal. Be warned, Iran.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Crazy.
For all the Fox News
So this war
on
is
YouTube
not stopping
and catch
anytime
full
soon,
shows.
as I stated before. So again, just to continue this a little bit, these were some of the strikes from last night. U.S. launching five-hour precision strike campaign on the IRGC targets. So again, this is before the Iranians retaliated. Tomahawk missiles were basically used. IRGC naval and missile sites were targeted. Pretty big booms at the end of the day. Pretty crazy. I don't think this war is ending anytime soon. Seems pretty clear that it's ramping up, right? I mean, it's just kind of insane that we look at all of this and we really think that this is just going to be a temporary thing. I mean, you know, people think that this MOU is still in place, the Memorandum of Understanding. It's not. You know, if you ask me, this is just going to keep on going on and on and on. More footage here. And again, this is just the first strike. Massive explosion here. Look at that mushroom cloud. That looks nuclear, by the way. That's massive. That looks like it's in a movie. Hardly even looks real, but again, this is real footage of last night. 5-hour campaign, precision strike campaign on the Iranians in the Strait of Hormuz. So again, that was just one clip of really what we saw. And then the Iranians basically retaliated right away, and they struck with this. 5th Fleet base in Bahrain following U.S. 5-hour strike campaign in southern Iran. So this is right after. So they hit a U.S. base. Again, who knows how many casualties? I mean, they're not going to really make that public at this current time, but I imagine that these numbers will come out a little bit later. Yeah, the Iranians right away, within hours, pretty much struck back. They've been preparing for this war for 20 years. You know, if you listen to any military analyst, they'll tell you the same thing. Based on any analyst, they'll tell you the same thing. The Iranians have been preparing for this war for at least 20 different years. Okay, so they're ready for what's coming. And every time we hit them, they're pretty much going to be prepared for it. And mainly, they really were prepared more for Israel. But now we are basically doing Israel's bidding. And then this was Trump teasing a very big announcement to be made to the nation on Thursday night, this Thursday night at 9 p.m.
Really big news. It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up. But that's what we're going to be talking about Thursday is it doesn't get bigger, because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country. We'll be discussing other things too, but it's going to be a very big announcement.
So yeah, we're going to be covering that 9 p.m. Eastern, and that's pretty much what's going on there. And so again, I also wanted to cover some of the Border Patrol, or some of the ICE agents and everything that was happening with that story. So basically, breaking news is that authorities say a person reportedly tried to run over an ICE agent in Maine, prompting the agent to fire in self-defense. One person was killed. So again, this is another case where, you know, illegal immigrants or people defending an illegal immigrant are trying to basically stop ICE agents from doing their jobs, which is their job, to deport illegal immigrants in our country, people who are not lawfully here, who American taxpayers and people who have jobs are paying for. And again, another person was killed because they tried to run into an ICE agent. And there hasn't been much released footage on it. Tried to find some footage of it, but I haven't found anything. They really only have footage of the person being dragged out of the vehicle, basically being tended to right after the event. So again, this is in Maine. And again, you had all these liberals defending it, and right away the Trump administration says, nope, we're not going to cancel deportations, or we're going to cancel mass deportations. No more ICE agents. We're not going to hire them anymore. No more arrests. We can't do it. It's too dangerous. I mean, like, how soft can we be? You know, we have 100 million illegal immigrants in this country at least. We need to go even harder. And that needs to be a normal thing. Law enforcement should be signing up for ICE agents because honestly, like, I would do it. Like, at the end of the day, this is some of the most important work that can be done as a cop in our country at the federal level. And these guys are heroes and they should be commended for it. And if somebody runs into you or tries to run into you as a police officer, and you're standing in front of their vehicle or at the A-frame, and you're trying to talk to them and get them out of the car, you're trying to make a lawful arrest, and they want to run you over and accelerate their vehicle, yes, that is absolutely lethal force. That is according to the subject control continuum. That's completely lawful, and that person should be shot. If you're going to try to run over a police officer when they're standing in front of your vehicle, who is a licensed federal agent, and they have every means and lawful means to do what they're doing, you should be shot for trying to kill a cop. Absolutely. That is a felony. That is a felony assault with your vehicle, with an automobile, trying to kill a police officer. You should absolutely be neutralized for that. Or at the very least, honestly, I mean, what else are you going to do if you're a police officer and you're standing in front of a vehicle, you're trying to execute an arrest warrant on somebody who's illegally in our country, you're doing your job, you already got cameras on you, and then somebody's trying to accelerate their vehicle into you. And all because the media creates this insane hysteria over this entire event. Now, ICE agents are now not being hired as much, and ICE agents are getting this bad reputation because people do not understand the severity of this issue. Our borders are wide open right now, essentially. And when Trump is gone, there are literally people on the Mexican border who are saying, we're just waiting for Trump to leave because as soon as he leaves, we're going to cross the border illegally. So this is a major problem. And illegal immigration needs to be tended to. And we need a far-right president who is not going to back down when the media comes out with all of this liberal propaganda, making ICE agents look like they're the bad guys for doing their jobs. They're arresting illegal immigrants in this country who absolutely should be deported in mass droves with their families. That should not be controversial. That is actually a service to you who has a job, who is working, who actually pays your taxes, so that these people can live here illegally for free, have children under the 14th Amendment, who can live here, grow up here, and then one day their kid can run for president, even though they might not even speak this language. They might have even been born here yesterday, and the mom comes over here because she's pregnant, and because she's coming from Nigeria. This happens all the time, all over the place, by the way, in the United States. We see it all the time. Nigerians will come over here to America 7-8 months pregnant, and they will have a child specifically at 7-8 months, so that way that child can come back to America as a naturalized legal citizen, and then one day they can run for politics, and they send money back to their home country. And it's completely abusing the entire system and the 14th Amendment, the Constitution. And now, look at what we have here. We have the far right, the Trump administration, who is going soft on immigration now because of what the media is doing and how successful they have been at propagating this entire lie that ICE are the bad guys, when it's these crazy liberals and it is these crazy illegal immigrants who are living here on taxpayer dollars for free. It's absolutely insane. So again, this is the footage of the aftermath after this assailant was shot for trying to run into an ICE agent. We had a Marine who also said the same thing. They saw it. They witnessed it. Going to cover that clip in a second. But it's insane. Like, obviously, these people should be neutralized. If you're going to run over a police officer, you should be shot. You should be killed. Absolutely. This is not a controversial thing. This is easy. Easy. Subject control continuum in any state would tell you the same thing. That's active aggression. That's deadly force. And a police officer, even at the federal level, yes, has the right to go one level above that level of lethal force or deadly force, active aggression, whatever terminology you want to use. So here's a Marine basically stating that he saw the car going into drive and attempt to run over the ICE agent before the shots rang out. The left won't hear this, though, and will probably demonize this young man. But again, this is a guy who...
Hill Street and Pool Street, and as I was approaching, you could see flashing blue lights. And then as I got closer, they were unmarked, so I assumed they were ICE, and then you could see them with their green vests and stuff, and it said police, ICE. And so as I actually was going through the intersection, I heard yelling. So I know I'm supposed to be paying attention, but I heard yelling off to my... So I looked, and I was watching, and the ICE agent was yelling and drew his weapon, and he kept yelling and yelling and warning the person driving, which is when the car was put into drive and was trying to hit the ICE officer. And he fired, I would say, probably 4 shots at him. And then by that time, I was also through, the intersection, so I just heard the popping. But I did see him draw his gun at the windshield. And then the car, you could see the car in the back, like rolling down the street afterwards.
And we also don't know if this driver of the vehicle had a weapon on him at that time. Did the driver have a weapon? Did this guy have any kind of record? Do we know that? Was this a felony traffic stop outside of just a immigration search warrant arrest? Or was this actually was this really just a bad shoot? Because if the ICE agent's standing outside the vehicle, he's talking to the guy, if he's pulling his gun, it's probably for a reason, I would say. I'm going to give the officer the benefit of the doubt. These are federal agents. They are well-trained, despite what the media will tell you and how poorly they're trained. They're actually very well-trained. And they go through like an 18-week training process. They have to go to a different state completely from their hometowns just to go to this training. So, you know, it's insane to think that we are really demonizing the police when we have illegal immigrants who don't even know how to drive every time we've seen it. If you go back yesterday, I covered a driver who seemed to be Indian. It didn't really tell which ethnicity, but the guy sounded Indian, Arab, and he basically said, oh, what is a high beam? He didn't even know what the high beams are. You have Haitians who are being basically given driver's license by the DMV so that they can basically just vote in elections. Okay, total fraud. And then they don't know the traffic laws. And so all of these illegal immigrants who are even here half the time, they don't even know how to drive. And so we don't know the situation here. We don't know exactly what happened. We don't know if the driver had a weapon. But from what I've been reading, it seemed to be a clear and good shoot from what reports are saying. And it probably was. Okay, like Renee Good, same situation in Minneapolis. She literally, you can see it in the video. She clearly almost runs over this ICE agent. Clearly, like he's standing right in front of the vehicle. And so he didn't even have his gun out at first. And she starts accelerating at him, and then he pulls his firearm because she's literally committing a felonious assault. That's exactly what it is when you're trying to run over an ICE agent with your vehicle, or anybody with your vehicle. That's a felonious assault with an automobile. So this is not a debate. And we have the left and these liberals, these insane liberals, who are really defending these illegal immigrants when, again, we don't even really know what happened. We don't even truly have like all the footage we need or all the info we need. So again, this was the ramifications of this. This is 3 hours ago. Nick Sortor posted this. But again, Gregory Bavino, he was former CBP. Nick, you are spot on. The mission is inherently dangerous. Kudos to the ICE agents in Maine for putting their lives on the line. Well done, ICE. With 100 million illegal aliens running around, many of whom are hardened criminals in their home country. Absolutely a fact, by the way. It was never going to be a neat and clean and pretty experience. It is a tough mission for tough people. Bring back uniformed immigration police, U.S. Border Patrol, who have the requisite training, skills, abilities, and most importantly, mindset for mass deportations. Never stop a mission when American lives are at risk, which they are. These people are coming over here. They have a disdain and a hatred towards Christianity, America, all sorts of different religions, enclaves of different religions. And then he says, ask Laken Riley, Jacqueline Nungore, and Kate Sinti. So again, here's the clip from Nick Sortor talking more about this.
Close eye on what's happening in Biddeford, Maine.
You got all these liberals who hate America, and they're, oh, no more killings, because these people just don't understand anything. These people know nothing about law enforcement. They know nothing about the subject control continuum. They know nothing about actually having a job, probably. None of them have ever had a job or actually worked with their hands. All of them probably spoiled little brats, drug addicts. Honestly, these are the people who are usually in these leftist groups, and they're protesting against ICE when these are federal agents doing their jobs protecting our border. Literally, protecting our immigration policies in the United States, doing what their job to arrest illegal immigrants, unlawful Americans in our country.
Growing protests in the street after the second deadly shooting by ICE in a week. Now, a change from the top. ICE pausing most traffic stops as a method of apprehension for now. Until
so stupid. Just so these crazy people can win. These people get to win and continue. Like, this lady's like singing and clapping right now, not even knowing what she's really thinking about. You have these fat liberals who are completely detached from reality. You have one lady who looks like she just literally got off the boat from Somalia. You got one guy who looks like he just doesn't care about anything. Look at his beard. You have, again, all these white liberals and boomers have no idea what's going on in this country. And they've never actually, like, put on a badge, never actually done the job. They've never experienced, they have no concept of what's really going on in this country when it comes to immigration and how hard our country is being hit by immigration. Never so openly have we opened our doors to third world countries to abuse our system and to live here and then to get driver's licenses, like, for nothing by the DMV just because, again, we want free votes. The Democrats want free votes. Republicans want free votes for whatever reason. It's absolutely crazy.
Get increased training on these kinds of stops, according to sources. We're going to dig into exactly what's going on around that today.
Homeland Security saying that the officer who opened fire in Maine yesterday was, this is a quote from them, fearing for public safety. We know that there are investigations that are underway right now into exactly what happened. Now, DHS says that last week's deadly shooting in Texas was self-defense after a driver ran
100%.
an ICE vehicle with his van.
This is just not a debate. If somebody runs their car at you and they accelerate their vehicle at you and you're in front of them, you don't think that's a crime? Like, I can't believe we have to explain this. I can't believe we are living in a country where we have to back down on deportations when that is what Trump ran on, and the Trump administration is now backing down on deportations because of the liberal media and the crazy leftist media, or whatever is going on with the Trump administration, whether it's blackmail, whether it's AIPAC, whether it's whatever, absolutely insane. This is a good shooting, most likely. We don't know for sure. We need to see the body cam. We need to see other footage, but it's insane. And as far as I know right now, based on the other videos we've seen of people ramming their vehicles into ICE agents, trying to run them over, having no regard for human life, and basically caring only about themselves and not getting deported, in the process, they try to fucking kill a cop, and these people get to win? No, these aren't good people. These people need to be deported yesterday.
The 3 passengers say that the officer was not in front of the van. So there is a lot of camera.
Interesting. Okay, so the officer wasn't in front of the van, apparently. So, again, I didn't know that. But, again, we have to see more footage of what actually happened. We don't know if this person had a firearm. We don't know if he, again, had something on the NCIC basically saying that, oh, yeah, he had or the NCIB basically saying that he had a firearm. We don't understand. We don't know what his record was. We know nothing about this case. We know nothing about as to why this officer, this agent, pulled his firearm out. We know nothing. And the media is already doing this because this is the objective, to stop illegal immigration deportations, which need to happen in mass droves. We need to triple down on them, actually. And this is a national security matter. This has nothing to do with race. It is a national security threat to this country at this point because so many of these people are flooding in and abusing our system, and it is completely unlawful and unjustified for them to live here when these people hate our country, and half of these people have criminal records. Half of these people are waving around a different flag, protesting our country, our Constitution, our way of life, our Christian culture, everything. And we just let them stay here. Absolutely crazy.
Around these incidents and certainly the forensics of the cars on the scene that are part of these investigations right now. Important to follow all of that through. Correspondent Alexis McAdams reporting live here in New York. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Martha. So, yeah, still a lot of unanswered questions here as we try to dig in more. Federal sources are telling Fox News ICE enforcement numbers are going to drop drastically. That's something they want people to expect.
That's terrible.
They say the pause is necessary because agents have to go through additional training right away. So the pause in most vehicle stops.
That's so crazy. This is all from the Soros Open Society Foundation. Like, this is our country is dying because of this crap. Like, these guys already have like such good training. Like, federal agents really do have pretty good training. And the issue is that they're not able to do their jobs because the media is demonizing them for doing it. And every time that they try to make deportations and something like this happens, these things are going to happen when you are trying to deport 100 million people, half of them being criminals probably. 100%. These things are going to happen. We don't know what happened exactly, but all I do know is that this is terrible. We are always demonizing the police as if they are the bad ones. They are the bad guys. When these are the bad guys, these illegal immigrants, and we just allow them to take over our country like it's nothing. And nothing ever happens to them.
Immigration enforcement operations follows 2 fatal ICE-involved shootings in less than a week. One was yesterday morning in the state of Maine, where DHS says a migrant who was in the country illegally
so this is
was
the footage,
shot and killed
apparently.
by an ICE agent. The agency says the suspect tried to flee the scene before the shots were fired and was not the target of the operation. There were protests again today as people marched to an ICE facility, an ICE office not far from the scene, calling for a full investigation, as at least one Democratic representative.
God, just look at these crazy people. Why are these people running our country? These are idiots. These are the lowest IQ people of America, and they get to just determine the direction of our country because they are so insane, wearing their masks for whatever reason. They're crazy. These people are insane. Absolutely nuts. Absolutely crazy.
Tells people, come and fight back in Maine.
If you're on your way to Maine right now, thank you. If you're standing up and fighting in your community, thank you. If you're doing everything you can to protect our values, thank you. But if you're someone who can do more, then we need to do more.
It's always the white Democrats and white liberals that are selling out our own country. How can we take back our country when we have the dumbest people in society who are literally determining the future of our country and allowing illegal immigration to exist? And every time these ICE agents are trying to do their jobs and these guys want to resist and obstruct the police, federal agents, because they are here illegally, then we are the bad guys as cops. What a joke. This is why our country is just getting dominated by literally the third world, because our country, our own natives of this country are becoming third world idiots and morons, literally educated out of college, just totally brainwashed by the most anti-American propaganda you can imagine. And again, I went to college. I graduated from college with a bachelor's degree. I know how it is. So it's like, this is really what's going on. This is absolutely insane.
We'll see who shows up. This comes as some Maine Democrats are trying to replace Graham Plattner in the upcoming Senate race, and they're calling to abolish ICE, something longtime Republican...
Abolish ICE. Abolish the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Again, no immigration control, no immigration enforcement, no immigration police. We want everybody coming in here for free. You pay for it, dirty American with your job, who's lived here for your entire life and used to live in a safe country and used to be able to walk the streets safe, and who you know, your parents and your grandparents moved here in the your grandparents moved here in the 1800s, some of them your great-grandparents, but you know, you're not an American. These people from Africa, Somalia, you know, all these, a different continent completely, from China, they are Americans. You will pay for them to live here. Okay, and ICE is bad. Defund ICE. Let's fund more immigration. This is literally the Kalergi plan in action. This is the Great Replacement. This is what it looks like. Any cop who doesn't stand up for this, you know, we need lawyers at the end of the day. This is why you need entrepreneurs. You need people in the media talking about this. You need real people with power, because these people eventually take over and want to destroy our nation. Absolutely.
Senator Susan Collins, who's up for re-election, says just doesn't make sense. Back here in the studio, the story will continue to follow as we try to reach out for ICE. And they say that pushback is probably going to be coming because, Martha, the vehicle stops have been one of their most effective enforcement tools.
Yeah, so you heard it right there. Because the vehicle stops are some of the most effective enforcement tools, what are they going to try to get rid of? Vehicle enforcement stops. That's going to be the first thing they target. Of course they will. Because why would you not target the one most efficient thing that ICE is doing to deport illegal immigrants? They are trying to crush immigration completely. They are trying to destroy this entire thing. Absolutely insane. They would rather their country be taken over by third world people who hate us. They hate you. These illegal immigrants who come to our country, they hate you. They have no respect for America. They have no respect for our laws. Some of them who have lived here for 30-plus years and still never cared to get their American legal citizenship here. Unbelievable. These people need to be deported and put in cages and sent to their home countries, actually. That would be the justified thing. We need a far right-wing administration that is not the Trump administration, who is far more radical, who is going to do something about this. Honestly, Greg Bovino is right. We have 100 million illegal immigrants in our country, and they're just wrecking it. And now when ICE wants to do their job, they're the ones who are demonized. This is a communist country now. And if you don't think you're living in one, then you're stupid, and you're not educated on what that is. It's very sad the times we're living in. It really is. So moving on, let's focus on the Strait of Hormuz. Let's focus on the Strait of Hormuz traffic and what's really different. So again, same kind of patterns that we've seen yesterday. We have a lot of anchored docks over here and just near Fujairah. Same blockade that we appear to have over here. Strait of Hormuz, very limited traffic, but it does seem like we have a little bit more traffic in there. Doesn't mean that there's not a lot of action. When we look at Bandar Abbas, this was the city who basically got attacked last night by the United States. Bandar Abbas, and basically a lot of these different energy facilities have been getting attacked, right? So again, a lot of these different ports, I imagine, will probably end up getting struck next. As you can see, some of these different areas, you can see where bombings took place. Okay, so a lot of this has been bulldozed over. Literally, you can see different factories here, different power plants here, a lot of different areas that we're seeing attacks in. Okay, a lot of different areas, a lot of specific areas that hold IRGC personnel and targets in the area of Bandar Abbas. But this is where we've been seeing a lot of different strikes in these different areas here. So crazy developments that we're seeing over time. And when we look at all of it, pretty wild. What do you think is going to happen next? But ultimately, when we look at the Strait of Hormuz, we have a lot of, and Qatar, again, also a location where a lot of U.S. military bases are. We have Kuwait up here, where a lot of other U.S. military bases are located. These have been getting hit by the IRGC. We have continued, clusters of crude oil tankers and these different LNG tankers, LPG tankers located in the same areas. Karg Island continues to be protected by the Iranians. These different islands over here that were attacked overnight, these smaller islands, a lot of different activity here as well. So I imagine you're going to see more activity on these smaller islands, and slowly, little by little, the U.S. military is going to probably take more control over this. And then again, we also have Bahrain that was attacked by the Iranians last night as well, or over the past week. And then in the Red Sea, we still have continued traffic north to south through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is another huge choke point that you need to be focusing on if you're tracking the marine traffic. As long as we continue having traffic through here, then things are okay for this war, but they're not great. But again, continued traffic all the way north to south in the Red Sea. Suez Canal continues to have limited traffic running through it. We continue to see clusters of anchored vessels over here in Port Said. Israel near the Gaza location. Again, no traffic coming in, nothing going out. Basically, these people are starving out. We look at northern Israel, where a lot of the actual, where a lot of them, most of the Israelis today, your Haredi Jews, are living there today. Your secular Jews and whatnot, basically you're like a version of Miami or Los Angeles. If you were to equivalize that to America, this is where a lot of your Jews are living today. Tel Aviv has been getting struck limited by Iranians, and then the Israelis have also been occupying southern Lebanon at the same time. So as we move up to that, you can also see a lot of the activity. Not a lot of marine traffic here in this area, all the way up to Beirut. So as we can see, these are war locations. We continue to see areas and different villages that are continuously being bombed, again, by the Israelis. As you can see, this is what a destroyed village looks like. A lot of this has been like this for a long time. You have these UN centers right here, for example, like UNP-10A, and they're always located right near these war zones. I pointed that out before. Again, anywhere you point, pretty much anywhere you zoom in on southern Lebanon, you can see a bombing within a 10-mile radius of one another. Or you can see forest fires being lit. You can see a lot of the different colorations in the clouds versus actual smoke trails. You can see new earth, bulldozed locations, buildings that are pillaged, collapsed, burned gardens and whatnot. Signs of missile strikes. Again, a lot of these different areas. So pretty much all of southern Lebanon has been basically bombarded by the Israelis. Everywhere you can pretty much zoom in, you'll find pillaged buildings and areas in these locations. More bulldozed locations here. See the new earth showing. You see buildings that were once there but are now not there. Shapings of buildings showing that they're no longer there, burnt down. We have burn marks. Again, we can tell that by the color changes in the earth. Different locations throughout southern Lebanon continuously being struck. Okay, so we see pillaged buildings right here, another one, all over the place. And these are signs of bombings, missile strikes, precision air strikes. And this is basically everything you'll see all the way up to Nabatea. Nabatea being central southern Lebanon, I would call it. Right about in this location right here. A lot of strikes happening in this area and these different locations here. So again, when we look at these zones, a lot of different areas that have been bulldozed over, new construction happening. And if you were to really focus and zoom in on certain spots in Nabatea, you would find where a lot of where these zones are that are getting bombed. Villages, small villages on the outskirts of the town. See it all over the place. Tyre, we also have images shown here. Again, a lot of strikes have happened here in Tyre, one of the oldest civilizations, by the way. So very sad to see, but this is what's going on. This is what's happening right now in the Middle East, in the Triangle of Death, essentially, and with this entire Strait of Hormuz over down here. And then again, we have Oman and a lot of their U.S. Navy. You can't really see a lot of their vessels. So a lot of interesting traffic happening there. On top of that, we have Israeli heading to Rome seeking proof of Lebanon's army that they can keep Hezbollah out. A technical agreement in Rome will not end the political battle in Beirut over the organization's disarmament and the balance of power between the state institutions and Hezbollah. So again, we continue to have strikes happening when it comes to Lebanon, but at the same time, we have this peace deal and these talks being done in Rome. I believe it was the 4th day or 6th day or something. Israel and Lebanon will open another round of direct talks in Rome on Tuesday at the U.S. Embassy with the American mediation in an effort to move the political understandings reached in the Washington implementation stage, first and foremost, to the pilot project in southern Lebanon. The two-day meeting will focus on implementing the framework agreement signed on June 26th. Under the agreement, Israel is expected to withdraw gradually from the two defined areas in southern Lebanon and hand them over to Lebanese army's control. Lebanese army would then be required to deploy forces there, dismantle Hezbollah infrastructure, and prevent the organization from reestablishing a military presence. If the move succeeds, it should be expanded to other areas and lead to a broader Israeli withdrawal. Despite the agreement's reference to two pilot areas, practical preparations are currently focused on the first. An American official said in recent days that an IDF withdrawal from the area could begin within days, but did not provide a date, map, or binding timetable. Planning for the second area has not yet been completed, and it remains unclear whether it would be activated immediately after the first stage. Israel insists any further step must depend on the results in the first area. Lebanon, meanwhile, notes that the transfer of both areas is already included in the agreement and says implementation should not become an open-ended process. So again, we have footage of the IDF here, or a photograph of the IDF here. The pilot also has a civilian dimension. Under the framework agreement, the transfer of territory is expected to be accompanied by the reconstruction of villages and the gradual safe return of displaced residents. The U.S. administration wants to determine whether the Lebanese army can hold the territory and restore civilian life without allowing Hezbollah to exploit its welfare, reconstruction, or funding mechanisms to reestablish its grip on the area. Details of IDF withdrawal, Lebanese responsibility remain disputed. As the talks begin, the pilot has not yet been launched. The IDF has not completed its withdrawal from the pilot area. The Lebanese army has not assumed full responsibility there, and no agreed public timetable has been set. So again, that's kind of the news going on with the talks in Rome, but that's really the main focus of a lot of this. Jeffrey thwarts the left, opposing ending all aid to Israel. So again, as he continues on, Thomas Massie is overly broad and could limit humanitarian aid, refugee settlement, and peace building in U.S. embassy operations. The Democratic leader's decision comes as support for Israel has become a splintering issue in the Democratic Party, particularly on the left flank. The legislation will be voted on an amendment to the National Security Department of State and Related Programs Appropriations Act, an actual foreign affairs spending bill, and would cancel the $3.3 billion in foreign aid Israel receives. I think that's a rather good thing. Are the Democrats actually doing something good? I think so, for once. In my view, there are more decisive ways to achieve the urgent change necessary when it comes to the far-right Netanyahu government, Jeffries wrote in a letter to the party, Punchbowl News Board reported. But at the same time, the same Democratic Party also wants to, again, import all these illegal immigrants into our country. As you could see from the ICE and everything, you know, you're not even able to have ICE in your country now. They want to get rid of ICE. That's crazy, right? You can't vote for Democrats when they want to literally destroy all means of national security. The legislation will be voted on in an amendment. We already read that. In my view, there are more decisive ways to achieve the urgent change necessary when it comes to the far-right Netanyahu government, Jeffries wrote in a letter to his party. Before Jeffries' letter, Congressional Progressive Caucus Chairman Greg Kasar announced his support for the measure and could bring much of his nearly 100-member caucus with him. Democrats have fleshed out his decision in many conference meetings in the amendment as it came up, as Democratic leadership held out making a formal decision. Ending military aid has picked up steam in Washington after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced he wants his country to reduce its dependence on the United States, yet we have the National Defense Authorization Act, the H.R. 8800, Fiscal year 2027 is when that's going to take place, and it's going to be voted on probably this October. Yes, today it got voted down just basically so it wouldn't be placed into the Save America Act. The Massey Amendment does not touch an additional $500 million Israel gets each year in defense weaponry, including the Iron Dome missile systems. Repealing that funding only attaches 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans, one of them Massey, when put to a vote last year. So our Congress is just basically selling us out on both sides. You know, they're not really doing this for white European Americans, people who have really lived here, Native Americans. Again, they're not doing this for you. They're doing this for 100 million illegal immigrants to live in your country so that you can go to your job, toil, work, and pay for them with your taxes. Meanwhile, Israel-Lebanon hold new rounds for talks in Rome. Again, representative of Israel and Lebanon on Tuesday began a new round of talks in Rome aimed at advancing the implementation of a ceasefire agreement addressing border security concerns. So again, we covered a lot of this, but that's pretty much what's going on in Israel today with these talks in Rome. So again, that's a big conversation. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, breaking news, Istanbul court issues an international arrest warrant for Netanyahu over the detention of Gaza and aid flotilla. Hurriyet Daily News, part of the sweeping criminal lawsuit against Netanyahu and several senior Israeli officials over alleged genocide, crimes against humanity, and torture and other offenses.
Free Palestine!
So again, viewer discretion is advised when you watch this video. This is footage of the flotilla protesters who were basically apprehended and detained by the IDF, and they were taken to a prison for a short time before release, but horrible things were done to them while they were there.
ברוכים הבאים לישראל, אנחנו בעלי הבית. ככה צריך.
ישראל חי.
So yeah, we see the dehumanization. Obviously, needs to be condemned. Obviously not okay. But at the end of the day, these are the same people who, again, are coming over to our country in America and saying that we need to inflict jihad on Americans. These are the same people who are coming over to the United States. Again, I'm talking about a lot of these Palestinians and these prisoners of war. Not all of them, of course. It's not okay what's happening to the children and the very real genocide and Holocaust that's happening because of the Israelis. The Israelis are ruining their reputation. They're going to end up destroying their any chance of getting allies or success in the future. They're going to end up probably getting nuked at some point, and they're going to have to move to Argentina and Ukraine, and that's really that you've been seeing influxes of migration into these countries already. Right? And you're going to see a massive movement towards that. So there's really no avoiding that. And I think that's really where the direction is going. But again, to play the devil's advocate a little bit here, it is true that these Palestinians, many of them, and these members of Hamas too, members of all of these different terrorist sects, they're coming over to the United States. They're migrating to America, and they're saying that they want to invoke Sharia law over the United States Constitution. They're saying that they want to replace it. They're saying that all of your women should be placed in burqas and hijabs, and your women should not show their ankles, and your women should have no rights. And politicians are voting for that, and they're okay with that because they don't want to stay in the middle and understand that it is both of these people who are creating so many problems in our country because so many of them are overrepresented, and so many of them are just being allowed to flood our country because of this 14th Amendment and basically our Supreme Court, which allows all of this to happen, our legal and criminal justice system, which allows all of this to happen. All of the problems you see in America today, the corruption, half of it's because of illegal immigration. And then, of course, wokeism and liberalism and these people gaining power in politics. This is why Nick Fuentes and so many prominent figures are always saying you need to run for politics to avoid these kind of people getting into power and changing your country into something that is more native to their country. So that's all I have to say about that. I condemn both the IDF and the Israeli military for what they're doing and the genocide and the Holocaust and the lack of dignity that they're showing to their enemies during a time of war. No humanity, no regard for human life, totally violating the Geneva Convention of which they created. And then I also condemn a lot of these Muslims who are indeed they also have a hostile religion. They believe that anybody who does not believe in Allah should be killed and should be forced to submit, pay taxation. It's in the Quran. Quran I can't remember exactly, 9-5, something like that. So ultimately, this is what's happening. Both of these sides, Muslims and Israelis, are taking over the United States, and they want to bring their way of life from their countries over here to America and force this on our Constitution, as they call Christianity a fake religion and an idol-worshiping religion, and they say our country sucks, and we're so bad, and we're a racist country, we're white supremacists, and just terrible stuff. They call us racist, just ruin our reputations, and then they get all this free stuff because they're professional victims all day long. And so, again, meanwhile, you actually have another war happening. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Putin strikes civilian ship near the Black Sea port after threatening powerful attacks. Attacks come as Zelensky and allies vow to use war-tested Kiev's defense to protect Europe against Russian ballistic missiles.
Says that Russian forces have struck a civilian vessel near the port of Odessa. The Ukrainian Navy spokesman says there were no casualties. A ship, though, can be seen ablaze in the area, but...
Square makes running my business easy.
Always an ad.
Flowercraft has been around since 1974.
Like, why?
And it's
so annoying.
It's not clear whether it's the same vessel that is said to have been hit. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military says that it targeted 2 oil refineries overnight. The Army's chief of staff said on social media the strikes sparked fires at both energy facilities. Ukraine has stepped up drone attacks on Russian oil refineries in recent months, causing fuel shortages across Russia. Let's go live now to the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. Al Jazeera's Audrey McAlpine is there for us. Audrey, what's Ukraine saying about this attack on this vessel in Odessa?
Yeah, it's a sign of escalating attacks. While it's not new for Russia to target Ukrainian ports, it is new for them to specifically target vessels. You mentioned earlier it's unconfirmed videos of this strike on a merchant ship this morning that injured several people. But yesterday, confirmed strikes on a separate ship where 13 people were killed and 10...
Wow.
At PG&E, we've developed a range of demand response programs that reward business and agriculture customers for using
injured as a civilian cargo ship was unloading fertilizer in the Ukrainian port. It also comes as Ukraine itself has ramped up attacks on Russian, what it calls to be shadow fleet vessels, meaning vessels that carry Russian oil in an effort to evade Western sanctions. Over the past 8 days or so, Ukraine has struck over 100 of these vessels in the Sea of Azov, as well as in the Kerch Strait. So again, a sign of these escalating attacks. No doubt they'll have an impact on global shipping, as well as insurance premiums, as both of these sides take the fight to sea.
Be argued, I suppose, that what Russia is doing now in Odessa is in response to what Ukraine has been doing in the Sea of Azov and Crimea. Tell us more about...
So again, the Ukrainians are hitting the Russians pretty hard. They're not just, they're not backing down. I mean, why? Because the United States, again, is funding a lot of the Ukrainian force right now. I mean, how many times has Vladimir Zelensky come to the United States asking for money? And again, you have to go to work and toil so that your taxes can pay for this war to exist in Ukraine. And so that by proxy, we can use these Ukrainians to fight the Russians. I mean, honestly, it's just getting so ridiculous. The Russians, if it wasn't for the United States funding this entire war for the Ukrainians and giving Zelensky free money as he continues to throw people in his own country into white vans when they're hardly able to stand on their feet, the Ukrainians would probably lose this war by now. And I'm not trying to demoralize anybody who's Ukrainian, but this is just what's happening militarily. The Russians have been, honestly, going by the laws of war overall. Now, the Russians did recently just strike a civilian vessel as well. So we also have that. So the Russians and Ukrainians, these tit-for-tat strikes have continued on. The Ukrainians have been mostly focusing with drone FPV warfare. They've been focusing this on targeting a lot of these different oil refineries in Russia, St. Petersburg in particular, Moscow. And then the Russians have been focusing more on targeting drone production facilities. And the Russians now have anti-drone facilities that they're basically creating in mass droves. So they have already solved the problem to a lot of this. And right now the Russians, in my opinion, I think it's just going to not be so great for the Ukrainians in my predictions based on where this war is going. And the United States and since Lindsey Graham is gone now, who is a heavy heavy proxy. He was a heavy financier of this entire war against Russia. He's been a war hawk against the Russians for a long time. And so now that he's gone and he doesn't have a lot of authority over the laws to be passed in Washington, D.C., it's his sister now, who's, after a special election, was basically admitted by Trump to take his place. Not as much authority over this now. So we'll see what actually happens. But it seems like as we continue to go on and on and on, we're not going to be able to continue funding this entire Ukraine war. This is also another war being fought for Israel, so Israel can have a Plan B location during this Greater Israel Project. This is absolutely a conquest of Ukraine, and Israel's using America as a proxy, and America's using the Ukrainians as a proxy to fight the Russians. So it's very interesting. This is a multi-domain war.
What Ukraine has done, effectively blocking off.
And another ad.
When
Ads. Gotta love ads. Don't even know what this is about. Terrible ad.
That route to Russian ports.
Yeah, exactly, Adrian. Even on Friday, reports that Russia had closed, for example, the Kerch Strait to any civilian maritime traffic. So some of the ripples of these long-range and mid-range Ukrainian drone strikes on those vessels beginning to have an impact. And it's part of what Ukraine announced in late June. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's announcing that he would launch a 40-day influence operation, really to say that Ukraine would ramp up strikes on land, sea, and air when it came to Russia. On land, we've seen that they've largely slowed the Russian advance on the front line, but not stopped it altogether. Last month, 4 kilometers per day, for example, from the Russian side in terms of Ukrainian territory. But also at sea, I mentioned earlier, over 100 vessels over the last week, and in the air, continuing its long and mid-range drone strikes in an effort to cripple Russia's oil industry, as well as to largely choke off the Russian-controlled peninsula of Crimea. And we're about halfway through that 40-day influence operation announced by Zelensky, but it doesn't appear that Russia is slowing down.
This is you.
No, it doesn't.
Needing a therapist.
The Russians absolutely seem to be going harder and harder and harder. They seem to be taking a lot of these hits pretty well.
If anything, these attacks on these ports in Odessa show that, if anything, Russia is doubling
and
down.
the Americans.
Al Jazeera's Audrey McAlpine reporting live there from
I would say that's
Kyiv.
a pretty decent
Audrey,
analysis of what's going on. Yeah, I would agree with most of everything that they said there. And so that's what's happening with the Ukraine and Russia war right now. Meanwhile, how has this affected the market? So let's talk about the stock market. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. What's new with all of this? What's new with business? What's new in the economy? Because I've been kind of slacking and not covering the economy and geoeconomics and how important this actually is to all of the different things. Because everything in a war affects the economy. Every geopolitical event affects the geoeconomics of a nation. And it's very important to cover all of these different things. So stocks end higher buoyed by light inflation data, bounce in chip stocks. The S&P 500 closed higher on Tuesday, boosted by semiconductor stocks after June inflation data came in weaker than expected. The broad market index finished up 0.38% at $7,543.59, while the NASDAQ composite advanced 0.9% to end the day at $26,107.01. The Dow Jones Industrial Average settled up just 9.63 points, or 0.02% at $52,508.27. Shares of the International Business Machines, IBM, weighed out on 30 stock index, with the down 25% after the company warned second quarter profits will be lower than expected due to soft demand in its software and infrastructure businesses. So again, semiconductor stocks are rebounded after a sell-off in the previous session. The Van Eck Semiconductor SMH traded 2.5% higher. Applied Materials and Teradyne gained more than 3%. Lam Research and Micron Technology increased roughly 5%. STM Microelectronics climbed more than 2%. So again, AI appears to be dominating a lot of the stock market and everything we're seeing with that overall. And with the stock market, that's pretty much where we're at. We're up above $50,000, but who knows how long that's going to last with this entire Iran war. So Bitcoin's at $64,587.33 today. The Fear and Greed Index is up from yesterday. We were at 28 yesterday. Now we're at 33. Ethereum also hit $1,876.94. We have Binance at $580.11. Tether, that's a stable coin. XRP at $1.10. Solana at $77.28. Hyperliquid at $65.90. So again, stock market, or the crypto market, the emerging market, everything's banking on the Clarity Act. But a big thing happened today. And essentially, the big news in crypto is that essentially Circle was given the full rights essentially to operate as a stablecoin issuer. And so really when we look at this, pretty big news. Okay, so let's take a look at what's new with, again, everything happening with this, because this is huge. Circle, again, Ripple, the company Ripple XRP, owned by Brad Garlinghouse. This company was almost, it was rumored to be almost acquired by the company Ripple for, I think it was $8 billion. Then some figures set up to $11 billion, but the company Circle denied and refused the offer. So Ripple almost bought this, but Ripple is a big part of the Circle cycle and everything that has to do with the charter.
Circle not squaring with investors at this hour. The fintech and crypto company, which shot up by as much as 13% on Friday, erasing about, let's call it 5 1/3% of those gains. The stock had surged after it got the green light to establish a federally regulated national trust bank, which will be called Circle National Trust. This allows the issuer behind the dollar-backed stablecoin USDC to bypass the middleman and directly manage its stablecoin reserve. However, it's not like it will be a traditional commerce bank that allows consumer deposits or loans. So what does it do for potential customers and, of course, the cryptoverse? Joining me now, first on Fox Business, Circle President Heath Tarbert. Heath, congratulations. I know this was a very long time coming. Give us a sense right off the bat on how important a milestone this is.
Thank you so much for having me, Liz, and it's absolutely a really important milestone. In fact, it's historic. Circle was the very first digital assets company in American history to get a de novo federal trust charter. So what that basically means is it wasn't a conversion, but we literally built it from scratch. And what this allows us to do is essentially use the very gold standard for regulation around the world.
This is great for crypto. This is huge news.
Manage the USDC reserves, which is critically important because, as you know, USDC is the world's leading regulated stablecoin. Something like 70% of transactions involving dollar stablecoins involve USDC.
Circle, as I read, can open, according to this designation, on or after July 10th, which of course was last Friday. When does it actually open its doors?
We are open for business.
Right now.
Obviously, we have a business plan. We're moving forward, but we're going ahead. We're excited about the possibility of one of the things that we're going to be able to do is actually hold digital assets in custody. That's really important because folks that are out there that have their digital assets, they want to put them ultimately with a custodian that is subject to the highest quality regulation. So that's a service that we'll offer. And then in the long run, as I mentioned,
don't forget that the company Ripple already got this same kind of, basically, once they defeated the SEC in their entire lawsuit, the company Ripple already got this same kind of status. So now the company Ripple is very similar to the company Circle, which, again, Ripple was going to acquire this same company. So, again, this is going to be very good for the entire retail industry in crypto. You should see some kind of price activity over time. You should see a lot of money and inflow coming into the markets. They now can basically operate with regulatory framework. And so that allows that to happen. And then once the Clarity Act hits, that's really going to accelerate a lot of these prices when you have, again, stable coins and issuers, banking charters, basically like Ripple or basically like Circle. And then, of course, you have the Bitcoin stockpile. So all of these things are going to perform massively over time. And really, the only people who are not going to benefit happens to be the banks. And so, but it depends on what happens in the Senate and what happens, whether or not the Democrats are willing to vote for it, because right now the Democrats do not want to vote for this bill.
and this entity will oversee and manage the USDC reserves, and as a result, will be subject to the Genius Act and making sure that we meet the highest standards that are here in the United States.
So again, that's all good for
as I understand it, custodies
Bitcoin,
assets
really,
for Circle and its own affiliates. Isn't that sort of just like moving the money from one pocket to another? I just want to grasp exactly what the huge advantage this gives you truly is.
Well, we're going to start off, obviously, by managing our own digital assets, but of course, many people place digital assets, and we have a lot of digital assets at Circle. But eventually, as we build out this business and build out this trust company, it's of course the aim to be able to offer these services beyond our own affiliates.
Yeah, I don't look at this loss of 5% of the big gains on Friday as some big statement here. It's more like sell on the news. It's a down market today. But let's talk a little bit about stablecoins. Morningstar estimates, and this is pretty significant, that the stablecoin market cap could grow to $1.45 trillion by 2035. That is really significant. But what kind of catalyst will get us to that point?
Because these medications are not cosmetic.
Gotta love ads.
They
to
are
disrupt
clinical.
everything.
Well, it's developments like this. I think there are a lot of folks out there, and it may just make sense to let viewers know, well, what is a stablecoin? Essentially, it's a dollar that you can send over blockchains and over the internet. And of course, stablecoins are different from bank money because they're backed one-for-one with high-quality liquid assets, and they're regulated, they will be effective in January by the Genius Act, the national law that makes these a core part of the U.S. financial system. And so you have a number of folks that are around the world, they're in established businesses, but they're also, regular people who say, I want to be able to send money 24/7, frictionless, at the speed of an email, with the safety and security, and without a ton of cost. And so there's a ton of use cases that are coming online. We see cross-border remittances. We see the ability to send money anywhere around the world, but we're also seeing large corporations say, this allows me to move money and manage my treasury. We're seeing financial sector players who are saying, I have to post margin at clearinghouses and in settlement things, and this allows me to do it far more efficiently and effectively. So the Genius Act, actually, which will celebrate its one-year anniversary this very week, sort of creates the pathway for stablecoins to be treated as the equivalent of cash. It allows them to be used in our largest, most important financial infrastructures. And to your question, Liz, all of those things are going to move this along, in our view, to use where stablecoins reach potentially that amount.
This is one sector, the cryptoverse, that actually asks to be regulated. They do not fear it. You guys have said, let us know what the landscape looks like so we can maneuver through it. So you've got the Genius Act passed, but the Clarity Act is still being held up by banks in many cases that have real problems with it. And some of that might be that they sense you guys are stepping on their air hose and they don't like the new opportunities that other people are seizing. So give me your assessment of when the Clarity Act might really finally pass.
Well, we're hoping as soon as possible, because I think it's really important that people understand that this is more than just any old financial regulation. This whole area, starting with the Genius Act, is really an upgrade of the U.S. payment systems, and it allows us to win in the next generation of the internet, which is the internet of value. And so in some ways, it's very important for economic and national security that the U.S. be able to lead. And right now, there are many financial institutions, traditional financial institutions, that really want to get into this space. They want to experiment. They want to be a part of it. They want to start moving value on chain. But the lack of legal certainty is holding them back. So it's a really important law.
I want to talk about the competitive landscape here. You are facing new competition soon to come up. There is a major consortium that has a whole bunch of companies. OpenUSD is, you've got that versus USD coin backers. So, massive 140 company consortium that includes everyone from Visa to Stripe, MasterCard, Google. They announced the launch of OpenUSD, which will, that's a competitor, right? And it will pass reserve yields directly back to their partners and drop minting fees to zero. Why should consumers continue to choose you when you're up against that kind of alliance?
We welcome the competition, and they should choose USDC because USDC is by far the best stablecoin in the world. It's the most widely used. It's on more blockchains than any other stablecoin, 34 chains natively, and we've been working on it for 8 years. The very fact that you have people coming in and saying, well, we'd like to issue a stablecoin as well, I think demonstrates the fact that stablecoins are critically important. But the network effects with respect to USDC are incredibly hard to replicate. USDC is available around the world 24/7. There's $73 billion of circulation. Consortiums are really difficult to win. They are very difficult to. We started as a consortium a while back ago, but
keeping everybody together. Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. I thought Tether was the largest stablecoin company.
We are the largest regulated stablecoin company, and in transactions, USDC actually has the largest amount of transactions.
Really quick, the stock. This was a $260 stock a year ago, June. Right now, we've got it at $62. What do you say to investors who bought it around $260 and really believe in you guys?
Circle is playing a long game. If we achieve our mission, which is to enhance global prosperity through the frictionless exchange of value, and we're building things like ARC, an enterprise-grade blockchain, and the infrastructure to be a full-stack internet platform company, I'm confident that in the long run, the stock is going to take care of itself. So day in and day out, we're focused on building that future, and we're going to continue to do it.
Keith, we will continue to watch all of this. We have covered stablecoin for so many years, and Circle continues to surprise you guys.
Not
got that
financial
designation, so
advice.
congratulations. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So that's huge news for the Clarity Act. So what does this actually mean? So again, he mentioned the Clarity Act, how this is going to be great for the Clarity Act. It's going to help it push it forward. Circle is basically, again, a regulated bank charter now, very similar to the company Ripple, who already basically gained this status. And again, a lot of these banking institutions, you mentioned how the company, they mentioned how the company Wix or Stripe, it showed it on the screen there, they're more focused on staying with USD. They don't really want to focus on USDC, which is, again, going to be more focused on Circle. And again, Circle is now the biggest regulated, essentially, charter for all of these stablecoins. And Tether, I don't know how Tether is going to do it because Tether is basically going to be a direct competitor. And at the end of the day, I think Ripple and Circle are eventually going to become one unit. It's kind of my theory on it. We'll see what happens. So when I looked in further, how will this impact the stablecoin and Bitcoin stockpile overall, retail investors and banks? Who benefits the most? Circle's Federal National Trust Charter alters the macro dynamics of digital assets, fundamentally reshaping how stablecoins are backed, how retail investors interact with the crypto market, and how traditional commercial banks view competition. The primary beneficiary of the milestone is Circle itself, of course, along with institutional players, while retail investors benefit indirectly and traditional banks face a long-term erosion of their corporate fee revenue. Again, this is why Jamie Dimon's saying he's going to fight everything, why he was cussing on air when he was on the news. Macro impact, stablecoins and Bitcoin stockpile. Stablecoin reserve overhaul. Previously, Circle relied on third-party commercial banks to hold cash and short-term U.S. Treasury backing to its $73.2 billion USDC stockpile. Moving forward, Circle National Trust can custody and manage these reserves directly. This eliminates counterparty banking risks, ensuring the stablecoin stockpile is insulated from traditional financial reserve banking failures. A magnet for sovereign and corporate treasury stockpiles. Because Circle now operates under direct office of Comptroller of the Currency, OCC, banking oversight, its infrastructure provides the legal compliance required by large corporate treasuries and government entities. This trust framework acts ultimately as an off-ramp for institutional money pouring into major digital assets like Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, again, benefits from all of this. Stakeholder impact, who is affected? Retail investors. Greater safety, no direct yield. Under the Genius Act, Circle is legally prohibited from passing interest or yield generated by its reserves directly to retail token holders. Minimized depegging risk. Retail investors do not gain new consumer-facing account with Circle. Instead, they benefit from systemic safety. USDC is significantly less likely to experience a structural run or depegging event because its backing reserves are housed under direct federal banking protection. Traditional banks, the loss of lucrative deposits. Traditional commercial banks are the clear losers in this shift. For years, institutional like BNY Mellon and Citigroup earned massive fees and held billions in deposits by serving as Circle's intermediary custodians. Circle bypassing these middlemen means billions in sticky, high-yield cash reserves will permanently exit the traditional commercial banking stack. The definitional split. Commercial banks maintain their monopoly on consumer lending and deposits. However, Circle's charter creates a specialized full-reserve digital currency bank that is highly reserved for fast global blockchain settlement, a domain traditional banks have struggled to capture. So again, institutional players. So again, Circle benefits 100% of interest income on its $73 billion reserve pool. Institutional players, hedge funds, asset managers, and corporate treasuries finally get federally chartered, compliant counterparty to handle digital assets. And retail investors gain a more stable, secure, and government-vetted digital dollar ecosystem despite not having direct yields. So again, when we look at a lot of this, going to be pretty big for the entire industry of crypto when we look at a lot of what's going on. So again, with the AI news today, we have basically a lot of big news with AI. Governor Kathy Hochul signed a first-of-its-kind executive order imposing a one-year ban on constructing new hyperscale data centers using 50 megawatts or more of power. The state will use this pause to study impact on environmental goals and power grid. The economic warnings. More than 200 prominent economists, including 610 Nobel Prize winners, signed a Stanford University-organized letter warning that AI risks large-scale job displacement and requires urgent government guardrails. Global regulation. Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis called the United States to spearhead the global standard body to reserve new AI models and national security implications. Market corrections and strategy shift. IBM stock plunge. IBM shares fell over 23% and following a second quarter revenue miss. And I lost my spot. That's awesome. Revenue split. Yeah, I hate when Google AI does that. Like skips down from where you were. So anyways, OpenAI ChatGPT. OpenAI recently rolled out its GPT 5.6 update containing 3 distinct models: Sol, flagship powerhouse; Terra, balanced daily task; and Luna, fast/affordable. It also launched a brand new ChatGPT desktop application. So again, lots of big news. AI-fueled vulnerability storm. Microsoft issued a massive record-breaking patch Tuesday, release addressing over 600 software bugs. Security executives note that the developers and bad actors alike are now deploying. Why does it keep doing that? It keeps skipping my spot, so I'm just going to move on. I'm just irritated now. It's crazy. But anyways, that's a lot of the AI news that's happening now. Alex Karp also had this to say.
Alex, if the key from what
And if you don't know Alex Karp, he's the CEO of Palantir. The guy's pretty powerful, whether you like him or not. And yes, he is Jewish. Yes, he is the CEO of Palantir, of which, yes, is very, very lucrative and very more angling towards the Jews, whatever. At the end of the day, he's powerful. And you need to pay attention to powerful people. And what I liked about, I seen something about him. He said, I was too young. I never learned how to drive because I was too poor when I was young and too rich when I was old enough to drive. And so I thought that was kind of funny. Never learned how to drive. Now he has everybody driving around because he's a multi-billionaire.
I'm hearing you say is
what it's all about.
Secure, American-born, open source model.
Gotta chase that.
How quickly can your model compete with the frontier AI models in terms of
saying
reasoning
is
and agentic AI tasks?
Okay, what I am claiming, obviously slightly
true but slightly self-centered, is it's the model plus an application layer plus compute. It is really all three. So in our jargon, it's the value, the reason, okay, just look at our financials. The reason why everyone is chillaxing with bad financials and growth while losing money is the client refuses to pay the true cost. The two places that actually make money, like profit, free cash flow, are our application layer called ontology and compute. Okay, what I am not just claiming, we can take an open model and in the classified or non-classified context, get it to the point of a frontier model, but you control the weights. So what is the true cost? Not just what you're paying. The true cost is is what you make minus what you lose, meaning the value of your business. But we can get the frontier application to be exactly the same as a frontier model without the risk of transferring the alpha of your business to another. By the way, you could do this with a frontier closed model too, but then the clients have to be able to ask and answer very basic questions. Are you keeping the data? Are you going to enter our business? What do you in the classified context? When the Department of War goes to you and says, "I need this application," do they get to control the weights to do it, or do you get to control the weights? Are we really going to outsource the battlefield of this country to the consensus view in Silicon Valley? That is effing insane.
It is.
And by the way, every single enterprise in this country, in private, a lot of them don't want to speak in public because it gets outsourced to the neurodivergent crazy person that apparently is on drugs, the one thing I don't do. Okay, so that's my role. But I'm telling you, in this country, at every single enterprise I deal with, these people are livid. They're like, I am paying for tokens that create no value. These people are stealing the weights and alpha of my business, and they're creating a wealth tax that does not help the poor. It just punishes, starts with the billionaires.
But that's what Palantir is doing too. That's always what they do, is they condemn everything that they're doing, so that way it looks like they're the ones, condemning it and attacking it. And so that way nobody really looks towards them. But Palantir is doing a lot of the same stuff. They're kind of the leaders of this industry when it comes to it. But I always liked Alex Karp. I think he's a pretty bright guy.
Every single person at this table is going to be paying a wealth tax only to punish us. And the reason for it is because these models have been completely irresponsibly oversold. And the sell is, it's dangerous for everyone, which is why I can give it to all your adversaries, but I can't give it to the Department of War, or I can't safely give it to an enterprise in this country without being certain that the alpha of that business could transfer to this model tomorrow, i.e. I have no business, no job.
Alex,
So yeah, a lot of what he's saying is basically that so many AI companies today, they have so much potential, but they're creating a false doctrine of what is really what. Right, so when it comes to your software, the code, when it comes to a lot of the taxation that comes with a large corporation, when it comes to a lot of the profit and the net revenue, all of these things end up being lied about in many instances when it comes to the AI industry. But those who actually play by the rules, those who actually play a bigger game, a longer game like Palantir really has, whether or not you agree with Palantir, they've had a pretty good business model. Their financials are pretty good. And so when you look at what they're doing, it's actually rather impressive. So you have to be able to appreciate, some of these leading industries in AI when it comes to compute and everything that the future of really quantum supremacy is going to be. Any entrepreneur should be focused on really what's going on with that. Palantir CEO warns AI could create unimaginable wealth for tech's biggest winners. Palantir Technologies chief executive Alex Karp said artificial intelligence may improve living standards for many people, but could also concentrate financial gains among a relatively small group of beneficiaries. Yes, obviously that's true. Karp said the growing imbalance in wealth creation linked to AI represents a major economic concern. He suggests that individuals and companies developing the technology could see their fortunes expand at a much faster pace than gains experienced by the broader population. The Palantir CEO also said public concerns about AI extend beyond potential job displacement. Karp noted that the warnings from some leaders in the AI industry about workforce disruption may have contributed to uncertainty surrounding the technology's long-term impact on workers. Karp's remarks come as a debate over artificial intelligence continues to intensify among policymakers, business, and consumers. While he said AI could deliver meaningful benefits across the country, he questioned narratives suggesting that the technology will generate equal gains for everyone. Palantir shares have benefited from investor enthusiasm surrounding AI-driven software and data analytics as the company continues to expand its presence in commercial and government markets. So it's all about data It's all about analytics. Okay, when it comes to artificial intelligence, it's not building an AI software. It's building an AI software that collects AI data, right? It's the infrastructure of the AI. And it's building an AI that creates an AI infrastructure almost, that allows AI agents to speak with each other almost. And you have to think ahead of the future, right? It's all about data. Everything in the future is what? Data. Data centers everywhere you look, right? What are they collecting in your new Tesla? Data. What's the biggest problem with a laptop like mine or yours? Data. You want data. You want more data. You need more storage. Everybody needs more information, more capacity, more memory, more RAM. All of these things are going to be the future. And then merging this with artificial intelligence and compute, and again, quantum supremacy is going to be the next big thing. Again, AGI, all of these things are going to be huge. Larry Ellison had said the same thing, that we need to be in the race for the AGI, right? Again, you have companies like NVIDIA, who what they're creating, like their XD1, I think it's called, and this is basically a supercomputer that allows you to basically have unlimited amounts of data, fast speed, 5G, 6G, all this kind of insane stuff. And again, the artificial intelligence is just through the roof, off the charts, and there's pretty much limitless kind of things that you can build and do with it. Okay? So you build a computer with your supercomputer, and that's kind of the idea of it. Do anything on it. So again, this was also big news in the AI race. OpenAI versus AI war just started, and it's absolutely crazy. So again, this is basically all about Sam Altman getting sued by Apple for basically stealing financial information from businesses and companies. And what I noticed about ChatGPT, and I have the pro version, is that it's now asking you, hey, do your taxes, and hey, allow us to handle your banking. It's crazy. So this stuff is now basically legal because these companies are making so much money that they can basically force this through and brood it through any kind of policymaker in D.C.
So there's this text message. An engineer named Chang Lu, who used to work on the iPhone at Apple, texts his former colleague Alyssa Peng, LOL, I found out I can access the network storage. So funny. Here's the problem. Lu didn't work at Apple anymore. He was already at OpenAI. And according to Apple, he'd found a software bug, an authentication flaw, that still gave him access to Apple's internal file servers after he'd left. And instead of, reporting it, he allegedly used it to download presentations, hardware designs, manufacturing details, testing procedures. Peng's reply, by the way, was, I'm ready. And she apparently helped pull even more material through her own laptop. A few months later, in April, she also joined OpenAI. That one exchange is basically the beating heart of what might be the biggest tech lawsuit of the decade. On Friday, July 10th, Apple sued OpenAI in federal court in the Northern District of California, accusing them of systematically stealing trade secrets.
If you want to access the production secrets behind some of the most Grammy-winning tracks of the last decade, this
isn't some narrow technical filing. The complaint runs about 41 pages, and the language is genuinely brutal. Apple says the theft happened at every level of OpenAI, from regular technical staff up to the chief hardware officer, and that OpenAI's entire hardware business is, direct quote, rotten to its core. Which, given who's suing, you have to assume the Apple wordplay was at least a little intentional. Now, who exactly is getting sued here? It's not just OpenAI. Apple also named I.O. Products, the hardware design startup co-founded by Jony Ive. Yes, that Jony Ive, the guy behind the iPhone's design, who left Apple back in 2019. OpenAI bought I.O. in May 2025 for roughly $6.4 billion. Some reports say $6.5 billion. Interestingly, Ive himself is not named in the lawsuit, but two individuals are. The first is Chang Lu, the guy from the text messages, who joined OpenAI in January. The second, and honestly the more explosive one, is Tang Tan, a former Apple vice president who spent about 25 years at the company and is now OpenAI's chief hardware officer. Let's start with Lu, because the allegations against him are the most concrete. Apple says he quit with three things: a company MacBook he never returned, that friendly pipeline to Alyssa Peng who kept feeding him internal info, and knowledge of that bug that kept the door to Apple servers open. Using that access, he allegedly downloaded dozens of confidential hardware files, voluminous, detailed stuff about unreleased products, engineering presentations, technical specifications, proprietary project data. And it gets worse. Apple claims he coached Peng on how to copy confidential files and, quote, avoid trouble with the security team before she jumped ship.
That's crazy.
And even told her to talk over Line Messenger, specifically to dodge detection. Apple's position is blunt. He accessed, copied, and directed the disclosure of confidential information after his employment ended, in direct violation of his post-termination obligations. Hard to spin that one if the receipts hold up. Then there's Tang Tan, and his story is where this thing gets a proper narrative arc. Tan was a legend inside Apple. He made his name on early Mac laptops and iPods, ran product design for the original iPhone, led the entire iPhone design team by 2011, and later headed up Apple Watch design. Colleagues described him as famous for taking risks and flying very close to the sun, moving fast, playing fast and loose, breaking things. In late 2023, he told his bosses he was leaving, and Apple did something rare. They let him stay through February 2024 to manage the transition. What they apparently didn't know was that behind the scenes, Tan was already working with Jony Ive and Sam Altman on this new AI hardware venture. He co-founded I.O. alongside Ive, Evans Hankey, Ive's successor as Apple's industrial design chief, and Scott Cannon, a former manufacturing manager who'd left Apple back in 2010. According to the lawsuit, Tan has been methodically using Apple's confidential information for OpenAI's benefit ever since. He allegedly emailed himself information about Apple suppliers before he left. He allegedly used confidential Apple code names during OpenAI's recruiting process. And this is the part that sounds almost made up. Apple says Tan turned job interviews into intelligence gathering sessions. In one case, an employee got briefed on a project just hours before an interview with Tan, and Tan then asked about that exact project. Apple says that became an established pattern. and then we get to the show and tell interviews. OpenAI allegedly encouraged candidates still employed at Apple to study confidential materials before interviewing and to physically bring hardware into OpenAI's offices, batteries, logic boards, CAD and design artifacts, actual prototypes. At least one applicant was apparently uneasy, saying he was surprised people had brought unreleased hardware to interviews and didn't know they could take those out of the office. In many cases, they couldn't. And once people signed on with OpenAI, Apple says they were told to email themselves useful info before resigning and to notify OpenAI if Apple personnel asked them to sign anything on the way out. There's even, allegedly, a checklist Tan personally put together, handed to new hires to help them slip past Apple security teams during offboarding and hang around a couple extra weeks with internal access. The scale matters too. More than 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI. This wasn't a trickle, it was a raid. Senior hardware and design leaders, whole chunks of engineering teams, lured by salaries and stock packages that made Apple's comp look a bit stale. And it's still happening. As recently as June, OpenAI poached Paul Mead, Apple's smart glass.
So basically, this seems like Tim Cook sued OpenAI because so many people were leaving Apple to go work for OpenAI. But at the end of the day, that's crazy. OpenAI is basically stealing people's data, and they were telling people who were working for OpenAI, hey, study this confidential information, which basically is stolen data from people, business information, specifically for their own purposes and to grow their own business, obviously, and things like that. Almost like insider trading.
Chief, and unlike Tan, Mead was shown the door immediately. No transition period, per people familiar with the matter. Apple had clearly learned its lesson. But maybe the most underrated allegation in the whole complaint has nothing to do with employees at all. Apple claims OpenAI went after its supply chain directly. Specifically, they say OpenAI got a shared manufacturing partner, one that works with Apple on industrial design and metal finishing techniques, to perform Apple's proprietary, trade secret metal finishing process for OpenAI's benefit, and misled that partner into believing Apple had consented. Zhang Gan, an AI governance and legal expert at Savills Singapore, flagged this as the scariest part of the case. No employee needed to carry anything out the door. The leak ran through a supplier. Supply chains move trade secrets just as easily as departing staff do, and almost nobody's confidentiality frameworks treat them with the same rigor. Gan also made a sharp point about how Apple structured the case. California courts have largely rejected the inevitable disclosure doctrine, and the state won't enforce non-competes. So Apple literally cannot do anything about those 400 employees just existing at OpenAI. Talent moves freely there by design. So every single allegation rests on conduct. Retained devices, unauthorized access, misused documents, coached evasion. Trade secrets law is the only legal perimeter left, and Apple pleaded squarely inside it. Now, the awkward backstory. These two were partners. In 2024, they struck a deal to integrate ChatGPT into Apple Intelligence and the future Siri. That relationship deteriorated. OpenAI at one point accused Apple of sabotaging ChatGPT on iPhones by limiting its functionality, and by this January, Apple had ditched OpenAI entirely and turned to Google. Meanwhile, Sam Altman has never hidden his ambition, a new class of AI gadgets replacing the smartphone as the primary consumer device. The twist is that, per people with knowledge of the situation, when OpenAI bought .io, the company had little beyond concepts and early prototypes, and was still scrambling to land on a product strategy. They've explored earbuds, smart glasses, AI-enhanced speakers, and ultimately an AI-powered smartphone replacement, though the first product, expected next year, might be something simpler. Apple, for its part, is cooking up home devices, camera-equipped AirPods, glasses, and wearables. So both companies are gunning for the exact same next-generation device market. Apple says it didn't just lawyer up out of nowhere, either. Back in February, it reached out to OpenAI, raised its concerns, and asked what OpenAI was doing to investigate. OpenAI, per the complaint, never responded. So now Apple wants injunctions, monetary damages, declaratory judgments, and the return or destruction of any stolen materials. OpenAI's entire public defense so far is one statement from spokesperson Drew Pusateri. They have no interest in other companies' trade secrets and remain focused on building technology that empowers people. Podcaster Stephen Robles roasted that line pretty effectively, pointing out that claiming no interest in Apple's secrets while literally hiring Jony Ive to build you a device rings pretty hollow. And of course, because this is tech, Elon Musk had to get involved. Musk co-founded OpenAI in 2015, fell out with Altman over control, money, and direction, did XAI in 2023, now part of SpaceX, and sued OpenAI over its shift from non-profit to for-profit, reportedly seeking $150 billion. A federal jury ruled against him in May. He's appealing. Also, in June, a judge tossed an XAI suit claiming OpenAI recruited a former engineer to spill Grok's secrets.
Are you trying to feed your dog better?
Don't you love the PayPal mafia? Like the PayPal mafia, Elon Musk.
Anyway, the moment...
Don't you just love the PayPal mafia? You have Elon Musk, you have Sam Altman, you have all the AI guys who are basically suing each other. Elon Musk hires Sam Altman as basically to run OpenAI. OpenAI was supposed to be basically a non-profit, basically run for educational and obviously for organic AI growth. Sam Altman then turns the company into a company for profit. Now, you can't say that Elon isn't doing the same thing though with X and XAI. What is XAI doing? Well, you can't even ask more than 20 Grok questions on Grokopedia, which is a part of X. You can't even ask Grokopedia 20 questions and to get basically the same. It's basically the same version of ChatGPT, and you can't ask any questions more than 20 of them, or 15 questions within 20 hours if you don't have the premium subscription. And so it's hilarious to say, to see Elon suing Sam Altman because he turned OpenAI into a for-profit company when Elon's doing the same thing. And, Elon's the richest. He's the first trillionaire on Earth. Obviously, he has a play in this. His idea is to, again, eventually take full control over OpenAI because he's going to position everybody in this the perfect spot to basically corporately attack and destroy and annex the entire company, OpenAI, for himself. I believe. That's my theory, because he's a genius, and that's what I would do, because it's what it looks like is happening. So it's really interesting to see where all this information is going when it comes to AI, the AI race, and how these, this entire war of AI is going on right now.
Apple's suit dropped. Musk spent the weekend calling Altman Scam Altman and posted that after stealing an open source charity, Altman had stolen all of Apple's phone technology. Altman fired back that plenty of benchmarks show their 5.6 Sol is now the best model in the world, and the most reliable indicator is that Elon is obsessed with me again. Then he called Musk the actual fraud for selling short-term space data centers to public market investors. Musk countered that SpaceX starts launching those satellites, 150 kilowatts of computing power each next year, joking that Altman could come watch if his parole officer allows it, because in Musk's telling, Altman's headed to jail before that launch happens. The commentariat has been having a field day beyond that too. Paul Semenza, a professor at Santa Clara University, said asking a current...
See, they're all on the same team, though. They're all on the same team. And, there's nothing different about any of them. They know what they're doing. They're all building the same exact infrastructure and system. They're just trying to fight over the control over these companies. That's really what's happening here.
Apple employee to bring parts to an interview reads more like a desperation test than anything, and that targeting Apple's supply chain is a flat-out declaration of war. And given Apple fought Samsung for years over rounded corners, don't expect a quiet settlement, especially since Apple has zero interest in cross-licensing anything from OpenAI. Paul Lembo, Broadcom's CTO, put it more colorfully. Tim Cook is not Elon, he doesn't play, and Apple's going to bring heavy lumber to this, even if the ex-employee theft angle is historically hard to prove. Sahil Patel noted Apple is probably the last company you want in court against you, with some of the best lawyers in tech and $140 billion in cash, and that Apple neither files nor loses lawsuits very often. Peter Rojas from Mozilla read between the lines. Apple wouldn't be this aggressive unless they genuinely believed OpenAI is building a phone. Max Weinbach offered a subtler take that the suit really targets Liu and Tan personally as the bad actors, with OpenAI roped in mainly because it owns the .io, rather than alleging OpenAI ordered all of it. Rohit Mittal just said he didn't have this on his bingo card, pointing out Apple and Google have been partners for decades without ever suing each other. And VC Livia Sabo called the filing a due diligence nightmare, landing weeks before OpenAI's expected IPO, a warning to founders that IP and talent transition protocols get read line by line before term sheets get signed. There's real irony here too, and Business Insider's Alistair Bard didn't let it slide. Cue the tiny violins, because Apple has itself been sued repeatedly for remarkably similar tactics, recruiting key people and building competing products off their knowledge. Under Steve Jobs, Apple ran those secret gentlemen's agreements with Google, Adobe, and Intel not to cold call each other's employees, arrangements later deemed illegal under antitrust law. And Apple sued plenty of levers before, the 2022 Rivian case and the 2025 suit against a Vision Pro engineer accused of taking thousands of documents to Snap. This is a company that protects its people as aggressively as its IP. The timing just makes it juicier. The suit went public right as the Allen & Co. Sun Valley conference was wrapping up, with both Tim Cook and Sam Altman in attendance, which product manager Parker Ortolani summed up as, well, Sun Valley just got extra awkward. Apple's a $4.6 trillion company in transition, with Cook handing the CEO job to John Ternus in September, and fun detail, most of OpenAI's Apple hires came from Ternus' hardware division, and Tan's relationship with Ternus was famously strained after designers backed Tan for the top hardware job in 2021. OpenAI, meanwhile, is bleeding money, leaning on outside funding, and racing toward that IPO, while Anthropic and Google close in. They've also been here before. The New York Times sued them and Microsoft back in 2023 over training data. That's everything we know so far. This one's going to run for a while.
Crazy.
So subscribe if you want the updates as they land. Thanks
The
for watching.
AI race, the AI wars. Don't you love it? Ultimately, AI is going to take over the world. And so that's why I built my own AI, Gold Shark Media AI, goldsharkmedia.com. Working with goldsharkmedia.com, you can build your own business. You can run your own business, basically inside of our CRM, our white label software, which allows you to build software. Inside of our software, you can literally build software. I mean, you sign up, again, whether you're a roofer, HVAC, med spa, legal services, agencies, home services, whether you're a real estate agent like myself, whether you're in e-commerce, whether you're a software developer, whatever it is, you can run your business in one place. Speed to lead, AI summaries, again, basically tracks all of your Google reviews for you, sends them, it automates everything. This is an automated business in one place. And so that's what this really is. You can prospect directly from this platform. Again, that's for our pro plan. But we have tons of customers, tons of clients that love what we do and that have been happy with the work. Ultimately, this is what I think people need to focus on in the future. I mean, you need to focus on something that's actually going to give you real value. All right, you have your monthly plans from $79 a month to $497 a month. But what you're going to get out of it, again, is everything in Starter, AI lead summaries, know your lead's intent before you call. AI writes your first reply to every new lead automatically. Full reporting, so your win rate, funnel health, pipeline trends, proposal build with client e-sign and approval portal. Review request automation on every one deal, recurring retainer billing with automated reminders, missed lead escalation alerts before the deals go cold, priority support. Then for the $497 Elite plan, all the same stuff except you get it white labeled. So this entire software, everything you see, the user interface, it becomes yours, and you just put your business logo right on top of it. Beautiful. And at the same time, you also get multi-location CRM management from one account, full audit logs and compliance controls, dedicated onboarding and setup call, daily owner digest email, revenue recap at 8 a.m. So all of this stuff tells you basically everything you need to know, right? It'll give you all your info, give you all your data that you could possibly store into one place. It's an all-in-one business operating system, and that's what this does. And so this is for anybody who is a small business owner, entrepreneur. You want to run your business easily. You want to calculate your ROI. You can do that, right? If your additional monthly revenue is $24,000, your annual upside is $288,000, right? You get your projected monthly revenue, your current monthly revenue, extra clients per month, and team hours saved per month. It gives you all the information you need. So this is an all-in-one pretty state-of-the-art system that you need if you want to really build your business. I got everything you could possibly use to build a true system. So again, free trial, 7 days. Sign up. Again, just log in with your Google account or your Facebook account or your Apple account or just any email. And again, you'll be logged right in, and you'll be able to start your entire business, and you can start running everything. So again, we'll just do it right here. We'll log in to Brendan Ecker. That's me. We'll log into our account, our little fake dummy account here. Get your tour, tell you everything you need to know. It'll walk you through the entire software. It's going to tell you everything that you have, the tasks, the proposals, the invoice and payments, your upgraded plans, your integrations and automations, your reports and reviews, everything you could possibly need. Plans and support, where you find all the information, any kind of help. You also have an annual plan. You want to pay annually, you can do that too. That'll give you the same kind of benefits, but again, you only have to pay once, one time, one done. And so again, dashboard gives you everything you need, add your CVS file, all this kind of stuff. Website, it's got everything. It's pretty great. Pipeline, again, add your CSV file, all your lead capturing, everything, any kind of automated embedded coding that you might need, chat widgets, booking systems, all right here. And you can integrate Calendly pretty easily. Prospecting, again, this allows you to search different businesses that are across Google. Proposals, anything that's coming up for you that you need to know about. Client workspaces, this is pretty cool. So if you're a digital marketing agency, you need to run somebody's business. You need to run a business for somebody inside of your own CRM while you're building a CRM for them. I know it sounds a little confusing to people who aren't familiar with this. If you're in B2B, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You can create their workspace right here, and you just build your client, plug in all their info, create the snapshots, everything. So this allows you to do all of that. Invoices, payments, this keeps track of that for you. All your tasks, build that. Everything you need to do next. Basically, all-in-one project manager, CRM, anything you could pretty much think of. Social publisher, integrate all you can integrate your Google business, your Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, your YouTube, TikTok. Pretty easy to do it. Add your teams here, reports. Again, I showed you the ROI calculator. And again, you have your scheduling. So again, you need to schedule posts. You need to schedule something. You need to build a CRM for yourself or somebody else. You need to build a pipeline, keep things organized, build some tags, and make sure you're organizing everything like that. Perfect. It's got it. Referral center. We also have an affiliate partner program. So again, you can apply for that partner access once you sign up for Gold Shark Media AI. And then again, the coolest thing in my opinion, agency name and logo on all client-facing pages. Everything you see right here. Imagine your own logo right here in the top left-hand corner of it. It's pretty awesome. Again, white labeled. Again, you have everything that you're looking at. It'll be your business. All of this will be yours, and you can just run it the same way. This is how you make money in 2026. This is how you become wealthy. Again, this is your help center. Anything you kind of need, any questions you might have, this answers it. Again, your help center, anything you need. So it's pretty great. So this pretty much helps everything. And then your settings. Again, product tour, team access, everything's right here. So Gold Shark Media AI, definitely use it. And then again, with real estate, experts say real estate market is leveling out. Definitely true. If you want to grow with me in real estate, if you're looking to invest in real estate, listen, real estate is always going to be relevant. Why is Israel fighting a war right now? Because they want land, right? They say Israel is and always has been our land, our land. What do the Muslims say when they come over to America and take over America? They say, America is our country. We're going to take over your land. Well, you know what? As long as I'm here, this land can be your land. And ultimately, this is what it's all about. So again, testimonials, again, everything you could possibly need in one place. Gold Shark Media, our CRM, and everything, our entire demo, you want to run that, build your own business, you want to become a real estate agent yourself, I created an online real estate course with 1,300 practice questions. This is a great place to contact me if you are looking to invest in real estate in the state of Michigan. I'm a Michigan real estate agent. I will represent you gladly. And pretty good way for you to get ahead of the future, ultimately. So again, if you're buying real estate or if you're selling real estate, then contact me. And we'll reach out to you, give you everything you possibly need to know about how to succeed in the market. I'll help you sell your land if you need to. Hopefully not, right? Unless you want to, right? You want to make a profit. Or if you're a buyer, first-time home buyer, work with me. Got a ton of beautiful Michigan real estate over here. We have lots of real estate all over the state. Again, Birmingham and Bloomfield Hills, Shelby Township, Washington Township, Romeo, Macomb County, Rochester Hills, Oxford, Lake Orion, inside of Oakland County. That's where I really focus a lot of my work mainly. Then I also work in a little bit of Elmont, Metamora, Dryden, Lapeer, and then Ann Arbor even, where the University of Michigan's at. Vibrant university town with strong investment opportunities, and Grosse Pointe, which is even Wayne County. So really the thumb of Michigan, Eastern Michigan, that's where I focus a lot of my business. And again, this is where you're going to really be able to grow. You want to grow your real estate game, then work with me. I will help you, and I will get you hooked up. I will help you buy. I will help you sell. I will help you invest. And I will help you land your American dream. Whatever you need to do, let's do it. Let's talk. Let's figure out your financial situation. Let's figure out where you're at. You got to start somewhere. You don't wait to invest in real estate no matter what they say. It's always the best time to invest in real estate. So don't just start never. So again, that's it for this episode. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Be sure to tell me what your thoughts on everything happening in our economy. Today was more of a business market update, a little bit along with the Iran war update. We'll be covering more on what's actually going on. Again, tomorrow is Wednesday. We'll cover more of what's trending on X, some of these bigger stories. But I also did want to focus a lot on what's going on with, again, artificial intelligence. What is going on with business and private equity? What's going on with these companies? I've been neglecting to talk about these things, and so I think it's very important to talk about all of that. Right, so ultimately, you can't abandon that process. And again, we talked about ICE today and the ICE agents that basically did their job, in my opinion. We talked about all of the politics that are happening in the United States with the Iran war, everything with Trump and the tit-for-tat strikes that we've been seeing. We'll probably see more strikes tonight. Actually, you know what? Before we even end the show, let's just look in to see what's happening, any kind of breaking news that happened as we've been covering business. There could have been a lot of information that's popped up here. So again, I did want to focus on, there was a couple more things I wanted to talk about, actually. So again, we had, the Senate voting against the NDA 50 to 46, denying Israel a merger with the U.S. Those 46 who voted in favor should face charges for treason, 100%. I agree. So again, nothing new here. Let's see if there's any U.S. strikes on Iran, any breaking news. U.S. strikes Iran. 14 minutes ago, look at that. Footage reportedly taken during Iranian drone and missile strikes against Kuwait earlier shows a Shahed 136 impact. The U.S. continues to trade strikes with Iran, and targets inside Bahrain and Kuwait are now bearing the brunt of Iranian fires. So Iran is hitting Bahrain hard and the U.S. fleet. The U.S. has disrupted the talks, burning ships and sinking in the Hormuz. Iran is launching massive strikes on U.S. bases and those of its allies. So again, they kept to their word, and that's what we're looking at. So pretty crazy. So this is what's going on. So make no mistake about it. Newly released footage of attacks on Iran. So again, it continues on. Tomahawk missiles everywhere. Iran hitting Bahrain. This is where we're at right now with the Iran war. So again, what do you think with everything? What do you think with where we're really at? So I meant to show you all these videos, but I forgot to switch my camera. But here we are. Look at this. Crazy. So again, this is the Iranians attacking right now. Just 14 minutes ago. This is a big story. Once I get off this stream, I'm going to post this on YouTube, and we're going to really I'm going to document some of what's been happening. Again, another massive strike in Bahrain on U.S. bases and allies. Pretty crazy. Wow. Newly released footage of U.S. attacks on Iran, like I was trying to show you before. Again, Tomahawk missiles mostly. And then Iran has launched the 7th phase of Operation Lightning against U.S. bases in the Middle East. Pretty crazy. So it all keeps going. We're not stopping anytime soon. U.S. decided to finish the job 28 minutes ago, but yet Iran appears to be hitting back too. Looks like the U.S. decided to finish the job after a fresh attack by Iran in Bahrain and Kuwait. The U.S. forces launched an intense wave of airstrikes not limited to southern Iran, but across Iran. Over 50 fighter jets are conducting a series of airstrikes against the IRGC. It's heating up. Welcome to World War III, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we're going. This is what it's all about. Comes down to all the marbles. Crazy. So, again, I'll be posting about this, and you'll see it on the YouTube shorts. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Be sure to follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at Brendan Ecker Official. Leave a comment. What are your thoughts on all of this? And, again, be sure to follow me on Facebook. All the different platforms. Rumble. Watch on Rumble if you're not watching there. So, see you next time, and we'll be covering more of the Iran war and what's coming new tomorrow. See you next time.